Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. A couple of weeks ago, my little girl was taken to the Royal Canadian Warplane History Museum. Now, it's an excellent museum. It's partially public funded, but they also get a lot of private donations. And they're basically to preserve mostly World War One and World War Two stuff. Because once you get into the jet age, things get technical and expensive, and got to start custom machining parts. Whereas you can probably still find old engine bits in a junkyard if you're willing to search hard enough. Might find yourself a might find yourself a Pegasus engine. You might find yourself a Merlin, but they still exist and they're still on the market. Now, what I didn't really appreciate at the time, she came home in a little bit of a grumpy mood. Now, I respect that. It's an hour bus trip to get down there. It's an hour bus trip to get back. Then it's a 5-hour tour for grade sixes. Yeah. I wasn't the total nerd that could name every single World War II fighter just by its silhouette, but I appreciated the aesthetic beauty of fighter jets. I appreciated, the way things fit together. One of my friends is a little bit more along the line of the guy who can do that. But even he said, 5 hours? I don't think I could make it 5 hours in that museum. But somehow, somewhere, somebody thought this would be a great idea to take a whole bunch of just ready to become hormonal 11-year-olds and probably some post-hormonal, and then show them around some dusty old airplanes for 5 hours with a 2-hour bus ride attached around it. Now, it's important to remember our heritage. Absolutely. And when you're going that far, hey, it was a $25 trip for parents to subsidize. And I appreciate that. Most of that is going for the bus because they need to send it down there. You're stuck in a particular area, so even sending the bus driver aside for other things to do, it's really tough to make a business day out of that. And I appreciate that. But maybe they should have gone with something a little more generic, like the zoo. I'm going to pick on the zoo because I haven't been to the zoo in a very long time. And there's always something at the zoo that some kid's going to like. And I like dinosaurs. Rawr. Well, we got crocodiles, which are the closest living things to dinosaurs. We have a science center. Hey, kids can run around. They can they can play with the experiments. They can do all sorts of stuff. But unfortunately, with airplanes, the tour is pretty much what you'd think. This is a Gloucester Javelin. They probably didn't have one, just the first plane that came to mind. It was used from 1954 until 1960, whatever. If you come inside, you can see here's where we restored the engine. No offense, it's kind of the way car jocks talk to each other. Oh, I've got this 66 Mustang and restored the engine here, stuff like that. But the good news is car jocks have actually figured out, unless they're a fellow car jock, they don't want to hear much more than, yeah, I dropped a 350 Hemi in there, and now I can get 1200 horsepower torque out of it. Whatever they talk about. I got a friend who's a car jock, and I mostly just tune him out and smile when he speaks. But imagine being forced to be there for 5 hours with a subject you're only kind of interested in, and I've yet to see a tour guide that's really, really enthusiastic. And that's no offense to them. That's just saying once you do the same subject matter over and over, it's really hard to sound really excited about it. We're going to look inside a Spitfire. Who knows something significant about the Spitfire? Every single kid there knows it's fake. I question the school for approving the field trip because it's an expensive one. And not very many kids came home saying, I want to learn more about World War II airplanes. Most of them are like, oh my God, thank God that's over. And yeah, that was the reaction. I do get to talk to a few of her friends, and yeah, that trip is kind of the subject of some vicious mockery, if I can include a D&D reference. Trips can be very special, but you have to know how to target them. And yeah, my father was willing to volunteer to go along, but the same token, he hasn't maintained his security certificates and all the clearances he had, and we didn't get much notice of the trip. Would have been a free volunteer. He would have been happy to go down and, you know, wander around, make sure the kids don't try to jump into the Bombay doors of a Lancaster or something crazy. So whoever organized this neglected their number one resource, which was the parents. There's enough parents who either have flexible time off, are retired, or whatever the case may be. You can get a few to help you out. And if you get a few, then you can break your tour groups up and show everybody something a little more interesting. They got a whole simulator there that you simulate a World War II bombing run. Sounds fascinating. I don't know if I want to be doing that for more than 10 minutes. But there's so many activities you could have done, even in that area. Okay, we're going to spend the first half of the day at the Warplane Heritage Museum, and the second half we're going to go to the Butterfly Conservatory. Now, Butterfly Conservatory, you know right away after an hour the kids are going to have seen every kind of butterfly they ever wanted to in their life. The same is true of warplanes. The same is true of bathroom tissue. The same is true for the art gallery. It doesn't matter what you decide. Kids only have about an hour to attention span, and then they want to get back to doing things that kids are interested in doing. So, great concept, lousy execution, and it's hard to say anybody did a bad job aside from whoever's idea it was to come up with this in the first place. Unfortunately, before, my little girl had a passing interest in planes. Like, look at this, it's the SR-71. It was the fastest plane ever built, and there's none of them working today. Well, why would they get rid of that? And she'd at least engage. Right now she sees a plane and she wants to know how to shoot it down. Not because she's malicious, it's just because she doesn't want to see another one. Our children's minds are a valuable resource because technically our children's minds are what's going to fuel tomorrow. They're going to be the ones making decisions on what's important and what's not important. And to show a child anything for 5 hours, and that's a child of pretty much any age, is flatly irresponsible. And I'm surprised they even tried to make it work and nobody said, hang on a second, let's see if we can't use this money and bus trip in a more positive, proactive manner. The teacher tried. I admit it could have been something fantastic, and I was hoping for it, but in my heart of hearts I knew this is not going to go well. And sadly, that's the case with a lot of ideas. You know, one person, that's their personal hobby. Hey, let's go to the RC racing show. Now that I think might have had more value to the kids because they could see the people building, constructing, maintaining, and racing, so there'd be different things to occupy their attention. However, I can understand why a school might not want to bankroll that with their time because, you know, RC people, even though they're all over the place, they're regular, normal folks, they still have that, you know, nerd stigma to them. And it's a shame. There's a whole lot of activities that would honestly be beneficial for the children, but they can't sell them. Well, for example, let's pretend we were a lot closer to Disney World. Now that age gap she's in is 11 to 12. And to ask parents to bankroll a Disney vacation, even if you get every possible discount on it and you're only going for the day, A lot of parents are going to say they're wasting my taxpayers' dime and privilege taking the kids down to see Disney World. Yeah, but you know what? Some kids that might be their only way they experience it. We need more places like that. I know they're taxpayer black holes. I know they're not set up for really to deal with children tours. They're more to get the one or two adults in and then parade them around and say, look how wonderful everything is. And unfortunately, adults don't want to see the combined Disney princesses. Although I would personally find it interesting. But they're thinking the kids are just screwing around for the day. So you have to justify the trip and coach it in terms that are like, hey, look at everything we're showing. You might be right, but you're showing the wrong crowd. So let's hope in the future they start coming up with better ways to do this. Because honestly, great concept, lousy execution. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, because sharing is caring. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't clicked on it already. Depending on your system, you may or may not see the bell icon to add up for notifications. We'd appreciate it if you'd press it so that way you know every time a new episode is released. And we hope you find a fantastic, or you have a fantastic day. We hope you find one too. Take care now.